Do you have to
Here
approve
we
it?
go. Here we go again.
Here we go again. Here we go again, but different.
Which actually, before we get into what this topic is really about, I mean, this could apply to every time we have a conversation, couldn't it? Because here we go again, but it's always a bit different.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think for me it was like a different angle on a similar topic for myself that I've been going around with now for years. And actually you helped me with some money stuff a couple years ago. And I don't know, just kind of plug some holes to get me going back in the right direction. And ever since that time I've gained confidence in that area and I'm feeling more confident about it all the time. And as my confidence has grown, my bank account has grown, and I felt more okay with it. Now I do get stressed from time to time with when I start thinking about the future and if is the money still going to be there and that kind of thing because my current circumstances revolve around having a contract and the contract expires and you have to get re
Approved and
well,
funded. Yep.
yeah, and there's lots of question marks around that, but I've become less and less concerned about how it's going to happen, just kind of trusting it's going to work out, and it has worked out. And then Sunday happened,
Oh,
and it's Christmas shopping season,
it
and
is.
over the past few years, I like the last year or so, I felt better buying gifts and stuff because I knew there was some money in the bank. But for a good 5 years or so, I was like, I don't know what I can afford. I was picking who was going to get gifts and who wasn't going to get gifts in the family. Like, okay, the family's out, but the immediate family is in, and I'll get a few things. So they're really stressed about that. So this Sunday or Saturday, I don't know, whatever, this weekend, I felt like we just like spent it all, like all at once. It's just like, and it all went out. I bought stuff for next summer because the things are on sale now. And then there was like, okay, I've been looking
Of
for some
course, because
shoes and
it's the Black Friday
Black
sale, so
Friday,
you get a
Cyber Monday.
bargain.
I don't even know how real these things are. I mean, they're made up to begin with, but they're like, is that really a good deal? It sounds like a good deal. Let's get that. So it just felt like I was pressing send on my credit card, like for like 3 hours, just going boom, gone, boom, gone, boom, gone, boom, gone. It was just insane. And I had this visceral reaction.
Hmm.
And I like was vibrating. I'm like, it's like this something feels wrong here. Like, did we just spend that much money? Like, is this okay? Like, my rational mind is okay with it. I know what's in my bank account and I know it can handle that. And I know it's not like a real overreach, but it was a lot of money in brief
In a
succession.
short period of
And
time.
some of it wasn't even mine. Like we were like given money from the in-laws, like, go get some stuff for the kids. Okay, cool, we'll go do that. So even though I have the money, I've spent it. Like I'm still the one pushing the button. It's like I went to a casino and I took all my
Croquette
money, got all my chips. Okay, cool. I need to throw them all out on the board, and then it's like gone. What?
gone.
Uh, now do we go to the buffet? Like I don't know. What do we do now? Like I don't know. Like it's all gone. So yeah. So for me, the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I kind of felt like I had resolved to a degree m money issues, and that I felt like I was in an okay, stable place. But now that I have a little bit, I was freaking out about spending it. Like, am I going overboard? Am I so going into a lack place, but from the other side of the canyon? So like I was in the canyon before, now I'm on top, but I don't want to go back.
Yes, we have there is a similar thing that goes on in my world, and it and I have to say it's both myself and my husband because we've been together for so long now that the spending in our household has is such a combined thing. We've always had our money always together because when we got together we had nothing. We were babies basically. And so everything's always been our money. Whenever we feel like we have a lot of money, we spend it like it's never going to be around again.
Hmm.
So w- we have had the similar feel in the last week because we went out and got new phones. Now, as much as we took advantage of the deals and we made it tax advantage and we did all the clever, smart things, and were we going to get new phones anyway? Yes, we were. But I also recognize that cycle of when we have feel like we have no money, I don't spend anything. And I'm really good at going, all good. We don't need to have takeaway. We can make do with leftovers. Here, we've got eggs. We can make something out of that. Um, get really resourceful. And it feels really good to be really resourceful. But when we feel like we're flush, we just spend and spend and spend. And when I review this year and how much money has gone through my household, it just scares me. I don't want to add it all up because there just seems to be outgoing and it's in the thousands. And I just go, oh, this is starting to be like I can recognize the pattern of more money creates more spending when really maybe it could be the other way, where maybe I could still be as resourceful and not be outlaying. But yes, so I recognize the pattern. I'm not sure I've had the same visceral response that you have had, but it's a pattern that I definitely recognize, and it repeats, which is part of the point, right?
Right. Like I said, it's a different vantage point on the same lack mentality, right? Like not having enough, not having enough. Oh, I have enough. But am I going to be out? Am I going to run out of it because I'm maybe indulging at the moment?
Yeah, and I also know from the other work I do that if it's showing up, if that mentality is showing up in this area, it's also showing up in other areas.
Mhm.
So where else is the lack showing up and is that impacting life,
I
right?
don't I don't need an anxiety in another location of my life. I don't need to I don't want to
I
have
wasn't
another
meaning to
story in
drill
two
down.
weeks about this.
Wasn't meaning to go down there for you personally, but it is something that we've got to look at. It doesn't always show up in the money. It will show up in that same mindset in other areas as well, which is something that we may not, I don't know. Sometimes I pay more attention to where it shows up in the money rather than where it shows up anywhere else.
That's interesting. I kind of felt like that happened to me coaching this last few weeks as well, where I felt like I started feeling really good. When I talk about coaching, I'm talking about CrossFit at the moment, but I started to feel like, oh, I got this. I got this.
Abundance. Yep.
Yeah, I had like an abundant streak at the gym. I really felt like, I'm getting this thing. And then I had like a last night happen, and I'm like, I don't know. No, maybe I don't have it. Maybe I lost it because I got too confident or something. Like it was, yeah, it's just weird how you can tackle the same issue from a different perspective, and it's you just kind of like you go back into an old pattern.
Yes, and so some of the thoughts that occurred to me when you shared this idea about what we are going to talk about today, it was like, are we going back into the same pattern, or are like because really are we? Because you're coming from a different vantage point. So is it the same pattern, or is it just feel it's got some familiarity, but it's not actually the same pattern, and maybe we've interrupting it at a different point?
That's why I wondered of like the and PTSD is a really horrible example, but it's the only way I can kind of describe it where it like you have a smell or you ate something and it reminded you of a time when it wasn't okay, when things were really, really hard. So I wondered if that's what I was experiencing. Maybe I'm not really there, but my mind, my body still remembers that that happened and that could happen. And I know I didn't like that.
And so it makes it feel like you've transported back to that
But
pattern.
I honestly haven't gone anywhere. The money's still in my bank account. Like it's okay.
Yeah, so how much do we this is where it's all well and good to recognize our feelings and do that, but allowing in that practical and the reality of what the money is in the bank account and does that match the feeling and making sure that both sides are actually matching.
Does it match the feeling? One more time.
So the feeling of it's in lack, I've fallen into the
Oh.
same pattern, and then looking at the account and going, actually, have I? Because the practicality is this, and yet the feeling doesn't match it.
Hmm.
And so that's actually the where the rub is. And we just if we can look at both of those, that starts to help um, create a more, I guess, centered reality
Balance.
because it does. Yeah, yeah. And it's so easy for us to get caught up in letting our emotions drive us. We fulfill emotions, but how much do we let emotions control? So we can get caught up in a situation and go, oh no, this is terrible. Like you said, and I get that it's an extreme example of PTSD, but I have certainly got an example where I grew up in an environment where both my parents smoked. So there's a particular brand of cigarette that if
Mhm.
I ever smell it anywhere, it immediately takes me back there, which is not a good place. And so that smoke smell would is triggers me, and then I'm suddenly now dealing with all the emotions from when I was 10.
Mhm.
And I that's ridiculous amount of time ago. But those emotions start to overwhelm. Well, it is a ridiculous amount of time ago. Not only in years, but also in
Life
how I
experience.
see the world and life experience and all those things.
But I don't, but that's the irrational part about um, those old stories. They're old stories based on where you were at that point in time.
Mm.
You've
And
changed. I've changed.
how quickly we transport back to that and make that the truth for now. It's like
Mhm.
we go back in time, but bring that all forward and make it true now, which is kind of what you're saying about the response to the money thing, right? A couple of years ago, you kind of went back in time to, oh, this could happen again. And then you bring all those emotions forward to now. Yet circumstances are different.
Mhm.
The family environment is different, the security, the all of those things have a different feel around them. And yet, how easy is it that we transport our old self
Yeah.
back into the current straight
And
away?
like you said, it could have been a smell. The smell triggered you, just like
Yep.
the credit card triggered me. So, or I let it trigger me, whatever, however you want to look at that. But
Yeah. And so then, what do we do to assist getting beyond that? Because we don't want to stay in that spiral, right?
no, and thankfully I have a few techniques that are supportive right now that I didn't have a couple years ago. So I didn't stay in that spiral very long. Yeah, it. I mean, I still think that we spend a boatload of money. However, it's I was even if I look at it rationally, it's there. It's not that bad. It's not. We made some choices. They're all some of them are actually quite responsible. It's just all at once. It was the sheer frequency of or sorry, the speed at which and that's why the the money on the roulette table or whatever reminds me of a time when I did that. It was all gone in like minutes. It was just like, whoa, it's that's crazy. So but being able to like check yourself, see it for what it is, like check your own reality now versus what it was. And you're right, it is not the same place. It is a completely different world.
And it's again what I'm hearing you say is that combination of you feel it and then checking the reality.
It took me a
And
little
then
bit to
you,
check that reality, though. It took me a good day or so before I'm like, okay, I'm ready to look at this, but I wasn't ready before that. Like,
yes, because it's panic stations. I actually, so again have to include hubby in this because all of our bigger money decisions are all us. It's never just the individual when it comes to the big stuff.
that's helpful.
Well, it's helpful in two ways. One is that I'm not solely responsible. So if we muck it up, I'm not the only one to blame. And second, it helps when one of us is hesitating and the other one can come in with some other thought processes around it so that the one that's hesitating or not sure. So we had this lead up into purchasing our new phones. I feel kind of bad about this. My poor husband has been living with a phone that just he would have to reboot, like literally do a hard reset on it once or twice a day.
Okay.
And it was overheating when he was charging it, and other such behaviors on a phone, but my phone hadn't started doing that, so I wasn't too worried. Uh, so eventually, like he's like, I think we need to do the phone. I'm like, really? Do we have to do that yet? And then we just went, okay, let's just bite the bullet and let's do it now. And so having we sort of have this little game we play beforehand as well because it's like, well, do we have the money now? Do we do it now? Is the need greater? Is the money greater? Like what are we going to prioritize here? And we sort of play that beforehand as well, which is a pattern which is sort of part of the pattern. So there was, and I heard coming out of my mouth, uh, uh, um, to justify buying these phones. I was talking to my daughter about it and and it wasn't an impulse buy.
Oh,
So I
you were
was just
justifying it to her. Like, yeah, like I have to explain why I got these. Like you owe anything to her.
correct, which, yet we had spent months justifying when and where we were going to do this because it was coming. It was coming. But yes, that's another reveal in my money story as well as the justification. Is it justified?
I think I think that comes from way back though. Like not even your time, like your parents' time or your parents' times where they struggled and scrimped and saved and they had to every decision on money was like a justification. And then that's passed on to us. Like, man, that's why my parents are basically hoarders too, right? Like it's
It's the just in case we need it.
just in case, or this. I mean, because like their parents would have used everything that they could to make sure that ends meet. Well, then you saved all these things because they had a value. You could reuse the bags, you could reuse this, you could reuse whatever. So um, it just bleeds into all other areas, and then you end up carrying it with you too. So who knows
Yes,
what my kids are going to have to deal with.
maybe a version of this, but maybe not as enhanced.
Oh yeah, hopefully I've rounded some of the corners off a little bit, but
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I do hear like aside from the money thing, I do see patterns of even on great on more significant emotional repeats. So, and it often shows up in relationships, right? So I watch it in my own relationship where it's always that issue's always been done. And the only time, so it's like, oh, that issue's always been there. And so every time there's an argument, that issue still comes up in some form. And
gotcha.
then it comes up again, and then it comes up again. And it's only when that issue is actually put to bed that the cycle stops.
Because that's the real trigger, not the other things that are coming up in the argument or the disagree, whatever.
Yeah. And so, I mean, really, what you're saying about the response that you're having is also basically, maybe it's just speaking on behalf of me, but I know for me, the money th side of it is I'm just having an argument with myself.
Mm.
That's also why I justify it. It's like, oh, well, should I? Should I not? I don't know. Should I? Oh, who's going to give me the validation to say this is a good thing? And so I'm arguing with myself. And until I can put that issue to bed, I'm just going to keep that argument going.
That's interesting because I bought something for the gym a couple weeks ago, and I've been eyeing this item now for like weeks, maybe months. And it's on Facebook Marketplace. It's there. It's definitely a reasonable price. It's a name brand product. I couldn't get it for half that price um if I tried. And anyways, and it wasn't until I won a 50-50 draw at my office a couple weeks ago.
What's that? Can you just
It's
explain
like
that?
to raise money for something, you buy a ticket and then half the money goes to the charity and half the money goes to the lucky winner of the ticket.
Oh,
It's
okay. Oh, we
very
have we that's a new concept over here. I've
it's a
not heard
very
of that.
common way to raise money. Usually you'll see it in like hockey arenas or for charities or things like that. So somebody gets a benefit out of it and the charity gets like a whack of money too. So anyway, so ended up being like 200 bucks that I won. So I was like, huh, cool. Now I've got a justification to go buy that thing. So and it wasn't until I rationalized or justified with myself that that was basically free money. I'm not really spending anything for it. It was, it's like a gift.
It was a gift given to you. Yep,
Yeah,
a
so
bonus.
I don't have to justify that. It's great. I'm gonna buy them. Cool. So yeah, yeah, it's
There is an argument with ourselves, and I think that we often will look outside, and even I did that when I'm justifying it to my daughter that, I mean, here she is sitting there with a whatever iPhone she's got, which is probably older than mine. And then I have to go, oh, I got this new one. But we did it for all these reasons. Um, like really, that's just me having to, still not quite over the argument with myself that it was okay to do it.
is there a guilt factor there with your daughter?
Possibly, possibly. I think that's part of this empty nesting thing. This is a whole nother conversation. But it's for however many years, what is it, 21, 23 years when she moved out. So 23 years, she's been included in all of our decisions of what we purchase or what we don't purchase,
Oh, so
right?
it's not just the two of you.
As in the consideration that she would be part of that decision, not that she gets an input in it when she was, 3, but just that there's a third person that gets impacted by whether we buy a new lounge or not,
Here we go,
you
but
know?
it's different.
And so and so this move away from, I mean, she's been out now for 2 and a bit years. You'd think I'd be over it. Um, there's still this sort of, oh, does she need to be included in the decisions that we've made and like keeping her abreast of what, oh yeah, we're going to go shopping today and do this thing. And so is that guilt? And I'm not sure if it's a guilt in a, oh, we got this and you didn't, but it's almost like still needing to include her,
Mhm.
part of the not quite letting go of the empty nesting thing. Yeah, that's probably a lot deeper for this than this today
You might have to
conversation.
renovate another room for the daughter that's not there.
Yeah, just in case she needs to come back.
Just in case they need a place to feather their nest. It's fine. It's okay.
Just in case. Yes, that's right. No, no, that's not happening. That's not the reality. But yes, it's a bit like that, right? That's the feeling. It's like just in case she needs to know about this and be still included in the family. But yeah, I think I've got multiple patterns on this, and probably revisit multiple times. Oh, more to work on.
More to
More
work on.
patterns to interrupt.
Yeah, but I think that, like I said, there's different angles to the same issue. So even though when we think we've resolved it, have we? And these are reminders that there's still a little bit of work to be done. And even if it's just being more confident in the fact that you've made progress and things are different than they were.
And
So,
being more aware or more mindful about the decision process leading up to something.
mm, for the next thing that we have to buy.
Yeah. Nothing more until Christmas is over.
Unfortunately, I still have a couple more to do. But I might have to negotiate with my wife. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, good luck.
She's pretty nice. We should be okay.
I, I I get that, but good luck.
We'll
I've met
figure
your wife.
we'll figure things out. All right.
Awesome. All right, well, there we go. I'm not sure. Did we? Yeah, I suppose it's about interrupting that pattern, isn't it? And knowing that it's not the same pattern. We're just coming from a different angle and just tweaking those issues.